Well, I mean to tell you, testing out a new camera is it's so frustrating. Hey, welcome back to the channel. So I got my hands on the Fuji XH2S, and we're out doing a little testing with it today. Took me a while to get it set up. I mean, setting these cameras up anymore is like a dang. You have to have a freaking degree in computer science just to get everything set up the way you want it to. The first thing we're going to do a stabilization test. I put my sunglasses on and it has lost my eye already. At least it has. Oh boy. Yeah, I put my sunglasses on and it's lost my eye already. So I don't know. It's got my nose, it's got my mouth, it's got a little bit of everything. Typical Fuji. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk down. We're going to start off with a little stabilization test with the 16 to 80. One of the main complaints I have with the ZV-E10, and one of the main complaints I have with it is that you cannot hold the camera steady at all, even on a steady shot or slow pan. So what I'm going to do is I want to walk down to the end of this parking lot, do a steady shot, and then I'm going to do a slow pan across the horizon, and we're going to see what that looks like. I can tell you already that the autofocus has my mouth right now currently, so we'll see if any of this is in focus. I don't know. We're just out messing with it. Now it's back to my eye, but I don't know. That's what we're going to be doing. 16 to 80 first. Let's start with the 16 to 80 first. Well, I mean to tell you, testing out a new camera is it's so frustrating. Like my sound levels are all off. They're in automatic. I don't know how they're going to turn out. They look way too hot to me, but we'll see. And I have it in face priority, which is supposed to, expose my face, but I can see on the screen my face is completely dark and the highlights are perfect. So that's another one. I don't know what's going on. I mean, what do you do? What do you do for that? You can't even change anything in exposure on face priority. Anyway, we're going to check out this 16 2.8 and see if it's any better. In the past, I've noticed with my other Fuji camera, it does better as far as stabilization goes. So we're going to try this out and see what happens. So I want to talk a little bit about the Fuji XH2S, and please remember that all these results can be attributed to user error. I haven't used the camera. I set it up in my office. I took it straight out, started shooting with it. So kind of my initial impressions based on how I have it set up, and a lot of that could be user error, but I'm just going to tell you what I think after using it for about an hour. And we'll start off with the autofocus. The autofocus is just not as good as Sony or Canon, that level of autofocus and like eye stickiness, if you know what I'm saying. Anybody that would tell you anything different than that I question their judgment, really, because it just doesn't seem to be as good as that. When I first took it straight out of the box, I had it on auto choose your eye, and it was blinking back and forth as fast as it could go. The background was pulsing all over everywhere. It looked terrible. Had to do it where it just went to the right eye and kind of lower the sensitivity just a little bit, and that seems to help things along. But it's nowhere near as good as Sony or Canon. It's still pulsing. It's still hunting a little bit. As soon as I put on my sunglasses, it started focusing on my nose and on my chin, on my cheek, and whatever else it could find a face in. It just wasn't nearly as good. So autofocus is better, but it's not great yet. Let's talk about the stabilization. It's not very good when you're just walking along there. Either the 16 2.8 or the 16 to 80 f4. Stabilization is not very good in either one of those lenses, if you're just kind of walking and talking. Luckily, though, when you're just handhelding the camera, taking a still shot, it does do a really good job of getting that shot. I mean, you can hold it nice and steady, and the video will look good. You go to pan, it holds it steady, but you have a lot of that. You have a little bit of that jumping. You can see that kind of like it'll catch, do the little jumping thing, and I'll take that over the micro jitters any day. Let's just put it that way. So I think the stabilization, while it's maybe not as good as I was hoping, it's not bad either. We can talk about the body of it. I found the screen it's good and clear, and you can increase the brightness of it. It just doesn't, like our Sonys, if you don't know, it just has sun and weather or nothing. This one you can adjust it, 0 to 5. And I think that helps out. So I do like the screen. The Viewfinder is nice, and there's a lot of buttons to customize. And I haven't got around to doing that yet, but man, there's a ton of buttons that you can kind of do with whatever you want. That's cool. Unfortunately, the white balance button is right where I want the record button to be. So I keep pushing the white balance button to get the camera started recording. And that's just the muscle memory thing. It's something, using a new camera, that's going to happen. But it was a frustration when I was out messing around today. The camera is quite a bit bigger than I was kind of anticipating. I knew it was going to be pretty chunky, but man, it's a chunk, like here's my Fuji XH2S. It's just a small, tiny little thing. You can fit it in one hand super easy. I mean, this XH2S, it's a gripful, and it's fairly heavy. And the time you go putting this, 16 to 80 lens on there, you got a pretty heavy little setup there. I'm not quite sure if that's something I'm going to be, going forward, going to be, wanting to pursue, because, by the time you got all these lenses and the bigger body, you might as well just have gone with full frame, maybe. But I don't know, just something I'm going to test along the way. But the body, it was quite a bit heavier and a little bit chunkier than I anticipated it being. The menu system, it is super complicated. It is nuts how complicated it is to set this camera up. I think that, Fuji's cameras and their menu system used to be fairly easy, to manage, to navigate. But then when you keep adding stuff and adding stuff and adding stuff, it just gets more and more complicated. And at that point, you might need to start developing something else. You have those custom buttons 1 through 7, and they're nice, and that's an easy way to do things. But getting those set up is fairly complicated. And also finding stuff is fairly difficult. Like, if you want to go down and put it in F-Log, it's in one spot. F-Log assist, view assist is in a completely different spot. It's kind of crazy. Why don't they just put them right there together? Wouldn't that make more sense? But I don't know. Menu system, setting up the camera, pretty complicated for a beginner, that's for sure. But overall, I think if you look at the video quality of the video I've done today, I think it looks great. I just using the Provius profile, and I think it looked all right. The F-Log, I do like the F-Log. It's not as extreme as the S-Log and the Sony. I like that about it. I took a couple of 120 frames per second 4K shots. Man, there's a lot of grain in that footage, so I don't know if that's going to be something that I can work out. Maybe it's user error again, but I don't know. We'll take a look at it and see. My initial first impressions of the XH2S are generally positive. I think it's good, but I'm not quite sure if it's ready to be full-time for me yet, if you know what I'm saying. I don't know if I'm ready to make that switch from Sony over to Fuji. I don't know if this is the right camera or not, but we're going to be doing a lot of testing over the next few days. If you want to see more about this camera, come on back to the channel. We'll be doing a lot of testing, putting out a lot of videos about it. If you like this video, I'd appreciate it if you'd go ahead and drop a like. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.